Good morning. So here is leadership Periscope number 7. Today I really wanted to focus on something that's near and dear to my heart, because I had some people who really invested in my career and wanting to see me grow and pushing me through difficult points that always garnered my respect because they were watching what I was doing. So again, today's theme is about behavioral observation and it being a pillar to success in business. When you start to lead teams, the trap you start to fall into if you've been a functional player moving up through an organization is when you get to management or a position of leadership, and they are clearly two different things, and that's a Periscope for another day. You have to get results through others, and you've got to do that from two potential opportunities. You can coach numbers and metrics and KPIs and hold people accountable and set expectations and really hope that they, sorry about your gas there, X-Buck, and really hope that they progress and gravitate towards numbers. Or you can observe how they're doing their job and you really work with them. And that comes from behavioral observation, and that's a pillar for me. So I'll give you an example. Every time I take over a new department within a new organization, I wonder if the owners or presidents think, what's the guy doing? Because for the first few months, all I'll do is observe. And I'm out there and I'm looking how the team is behaving. I'm looking how the customer's behaving. I'm looking how our product fits the gap. And I'm trying to get an understanding of how we can differentiate ourselves, set expectations on those behaviors, and grow for success, not only for the company, but for the individuals involved who are doing the hard work in the field. So let me give you an example. Last 3 sales and marketing teams that I've had the pleasure to oversee, I went in and sat for a few months and observed, how did we sell? How do we position our product in the marketplace? And I looked for the gaps, and then I looked at our competitors and looked at, how do they sell? How do they market their product? Where are we different? What are what I call our boomerang facts? And those are the things where you engage with a client and you tell them something that only you can do and differentiate yourselves, either by being the best or being exclusive at your offering. And when that client goes out to look at other opportunities and other options, they generally come back because you're the only one that can offer that service or that service at that level or that product. So I'm out there and I'm looking for those things, right? And when I see those things and I see how our team behaves with those differentiators, I go back and I can build a training program. I set very, very precise expectations, try and keep it simplified, and then roll those expectations out via a training program. And then I'll go out and want to make sure we measure that. And traditionally that's been via a mystery shop program. So somebody objectively tell me, are we following through on the skill development that we've identified through those observations? So you observe what you want to see in the field, you observe what you're actually doing, you close the gap, you see the opportunity, you train it, you set expectations, and then you recycle. So now you've got a third party observing whether those behaviors are actually happening, and you're out there as a coach and a leader observing whether they're happening and provide specific feedback, recognition, etc. Another great piece that behavioral observation is excellent for, and really at the end of the day, I believe a pillar to success in business, is for your one-on-ones and your coaching sessions, whether that be a weekly scheduled event or whether you're going out into the field and observing your team. If you don't have a sales team and you have a marketing team and you're in the office, how are you sitting in on their marketing campaigns? How are you observing why they're making the decisions they're making? How are you observing how they're measuring their work? How are you observing how they tweak and change their programming? And how are you providing specific feedback? So again, another specific example. When I go out and do coaching sessions in the field, of which I've been guilty of not doing enough lately, so just to show you we all get in the trap and we need the reminder, I go out and I go back to those 5 expectations in my training program and I look for them. Okay, so how is the sales professional connecting with the customer? How are they gathering the client's needs to truly understand what they need? How are they inquiring, and when are they advocating, and how? How are they differentiating the product? How are they overcoming objections? Boy, we've all heard that one in the sales world. How are they asking for the opportunity to gain the business? And how are they following up? And I'm sitting back after and saying, okay, here's what I saw today. On these 2 opportunities, tell me why you did this. What did you think you did well? Where could you improve? And we're building an action plan together, but it's all off the foundation of a conversation about what I'm seeing them do. Not, boy, their numbers are down, I better go out and observe what's going on and tell them to move their number. No, it's about, hey, you know what? We talked in your one-on-one about your numbers being either above, I want to provide recognition, awesome job, I want to get out there and see how you do it so I can share with others. Specifically, here's what I saw you do great today. Client came in, you responded to them quickly, you asked a lot of great inquiry-driven questions, really gained the customer's trust, you provided value by being a product knowledge expert and advocating the right solution, and asked for their business, and it was a great trusting environment. Recognition piece, because I saw it. Development piece, hey, the numbers have been off, so I'm in to look at it. And we talked about the KPI of conversion rate. And I noticed that you're not closing as much of the traffic as the company average. You never compare one person to the other. Comparing to company average is okay. And I want to help you get to that gap, because closing that conversion rate will drive X more sales, which will make you more successful, grow the business. What do you think you could be working on? Well, I seem to ask everybody who comes in, I go through the whole, 5 steps, and I'm not able to close. And okay, well, what are you struggling with? And we have a level of dialogue, and I say, are you okay if I observe you? And when I catch you doing it right, I want to share that with you. And when I see a gap, I want to share that with you as well. And now you're building behavioral action plan steps that lead to that KPI, that lead to that number. Too many coaches do 2 things really wrong. One, they don't coach. I'm sitting here doing these Periscopes, and we're all coming from an assumption that everybody coaches, and they don't. I can tell you, having been across multiple organizations, whether that be big corporations, family-run business, individual ownerships, boards, public companies, private companies, the majority of companies don't believe in coaching. It's a fact. So that's number one. You got to believe in it. You got to want to help your people improve. And number 2 is a lot of coaches coach the numbers. I had a YouTube vlog like a couple of years ago where I talked about Mike Babcock before he ever came to Toronto. He was in Detroit at the time, obviously. Do you think Mike Babcock comes in at the end of the first period and says, we're losing 1-0. Somebody go score. And then they play a period, and now they're down, let's call it 3-0 if you're the Leafs. Do you think he comes into the intermission and says, boys, this is incredible. We're down 3-0 now. Now we need 3 goals just to tie it up. Go get them, or I'm skating you crazy on Monday. Boom, they lose the game 5-0. Not that ever happens to the Leafs. They come in, they've lost 5-0. Babcock says, okay, guys, tomorrow at practice, we're going to talk about how we're going to get 6 goals next game. See you tomorrow morning. And then they show up to practice, and they start talking about how to score 6 goals. That is not the way that would look. Babcock would come in after the first period and say, guys, we're down 1-0. They are taking away the neutral zone for us. We need to tighten that up on the defensive end so they're not getting as many breakouts. And when we're coming out on the breakout, we need a guy cutting across the middle at all times. We're getting stuck. They're jamming the zone on us. Remember that drill we did in practice that opened up the ice? Well, the left winger came across and the center went straight up and the right winger hung back, and that always caught a man, at least open, if not at full speed. Go back to that drill, guys. We need to do that. That's what you'd hear Mike Babcock say about getting a goal to tie the game. If they were down 3-0 after the second period, Mike would probably be more animated. But again, it'd all be behavior-based. If they lost that game 5-0, there would certainly be accountability in practice the next day, I'm sure. But they'd be working on hockey drills that were specific to changing the behaviors, trusting the goals would come and the goals would stay out of their net and the result on the scoreboard would change. The same thing translates into business. Why would you go to your team? Why would you go to your team? Got it. High-tech iPhones here. Why would you go to your team and say, we missed our numbers last week. You better hit them this week. It's that simple. The reality is there's more leaders out there doing it than not. Lastly, the last piece for behavioral observation, and then I'll end this Periscope, is how are you using it for personal development? So, there's a whole other layer. We've talked about setting up expected behaviors. We've talked about measuring those behaviors. We've talked about today setting up a training program, all based on what you observe in the field, from the skills of your team to the gap to how you can differentiate yourself. We've talked about how you use it in one-on-ones to coach behaviors, not just numbers. So behaviors, KPIs, the numbers. How about personal development? So a lot of times we, in organizations, we want to develop from within. But then we never observe what the individual's gaps are to get promoted to the next role. I'll give you an example, and I won't use I'll use the silly example. You are a fictional example. You are on the production line of making widgets. That's right, widgets. Look it up. And then, you've done a really good job and you've been with the company for 10 years making widgets, but you want to supervise the widget makers, okay? And you got a manager of the widget makers. This might not go anywhere. Yes, I am at work. You're the manager of widget makers. And you're on the line and you want to become a supervisor. Well, if the manager just judges your ability to make widgets, we'll talk about that. If your manager just wants to help you make good widgets and doesn't observe how you're doing it and set you up for the ability to supervise a widget making team, and then the position comes up, there is no, oh, that's too bad. We always need good people, B16, BON. That's too bad because the individual is not getting their development focused on. So behaviorally, you'd be observing the following. How is he making widgets? Great, he's a good widget maker functionally. We want to make him a leader on widget making or a supervisor. There's a gap. So what skills do they need to learn? Okay, well, let's take him outside of the line this week and let's see him supervise the team. Let's let him oversee today's first quota of widgets and how they behave. And you watch him behave with the team and how he interacts, and when one person gets behind in the chain, how he goes and addresses that issue, recognizes where the gaps are, helps them grow, etc. The silly example of widgets, I probably should have gone there, I should have used something more concrete, but I think you're getting the theme. How are you observing the behaviors they need to put in place to be prepared for that next role? So again, you heard me talk today as I finished this Periscope, how critical observational analysis is, right? And behavioral observational analysis. So when you start as a leader with a team, stop before you do anything and observe the behaviors of your team and your customer. Find out where you want to set your expectations based on the ability for your individuals to grow and your business to grow. Then set your expectations. Then have someone measure the behaviors objectively. Mystery shop was the example I used in sales. And yourself as a coach. You need to be out there observing those expectations. Inspect what you expect. Thank you, Richard Petty. And then coaching. How are you using coaching sessions to talk about behaviors that drive the numbers? So again, remember, big metric, KPI, behaviors. Look at it the reverse. Behaviors. What are they doing? What are you seeing? What are they doing well? What do you want to recognize? What do you want them to repeat? Where do you want to help them see a gap? How do you want to help them close it in relation to a metric, a KPI that they can get their head around, that there's value for them in the organization, that can move the numbers forward and at the same time help them grow. And lastly, if you're developing someone and you want to move them to the next level, put them in the environment to start to learn that before the position ever opens up. Have them little projects, have them shadowing opportunities, observe their behaviors so you can identify the gaps in advance of them ever putting up their hand for that promotion or interviewing internally for that opportunity. And then they have your feedback and you've already seen them in the role. So again, if you're not out there observing your team, and guilty as charged, okay? Guilty as charged lately. I have not been doing a good enough job as I normally do. How do you help them change their behaviors? How do you know your business is growing? How do you know your people are growing? That's it, folks. That's, Leadership Periscope number 7. I am just picking up all these hearts and some of these comments. Some of the comments are funny and witty, and I'm trying to respond to them as I speak. Some of them are just downright silly, but I love you anyways. Have a great day.